Good afternoon, guys. Thank you so much for joining. So we welcome you to the Chennai OutSystem User Group's meetup. So today's meetup will be concentrating about advanced REST API integration in OutSystems. So this is actually a continuation. Last time we had part one rehearsed by Krishnamba. So just a continuation of the advanced concepts on the API REST API integrations. So speaking about OutSystem user groups and OutSystem community, right? So we have more than 687K plus members, and we have lots and lots of reusable apps in our Forge components to download. And if you want to contribute to our community by creating a reusable app, and you want to share an idea on the platform or a community sites or any of the reusable apps, you are most welcome in our community page. So if you want to reach out to our community, just log on to outsystems.com/community. And we have user groups targeting to specific geographical areas, and we belong to the Chennai OutSystem user group. And this user group, we had Krishnamal and Hathimeri as our organizer, and it's been successfully running for the past couple of years. You can reach us at OutSystems user group, like usergroup.outsystems.com/Chennai. And we have OutSystems MVP and Champions program. The application form is not yet open, so we'll let you know, guys, once it is open. So these are all the awards and nominations given for exemplary members in the community to serve, who have served a lot in community and who are willing to serve a lot in community. We have the ODC training, the OutSystem Developer Cloud, the cloud native of OutSystems. Already we have a lots and lots of community members who have earned their cloud ready badges. And then after that, we have lots of people who has their certificates on the ODC reactor. So if you want to book a slot, wait for the slot for the openings. Once it's done, we will let you know through the LinkedIn page or through the OutSystems forum. Just book a slot immediately and have your environment, organization environment, and you can be a success over there. We have the OutSystem Developer School. So people who are new to OutSystems, people who are from different professional background who want to join or who want to learn OutSystems from scratch, OutSystem Developer School is the very best option. I can say these are all the trainings from the community members, experts, MVPs, champions. So people from your region are taking those sessions. So book a slot and go for a nomination enrollment. If you got selected, you will be having a training, a curated, or I can say a tailored, tailor-made training for only for you guys, and you will be having an option to appear for the reactive examination. And we have the OutSystems research program. If you are a very curious member who want to help us in the research activities of the OutSystems, you are always welcome to join the research program. Just sign up using the QR code, or you can just go Google it for OutSystem research program. In our OutSystems website, you'll be having a research program option. Just click on it, like give your name, the contact, and how we can reach us, and so that you guys will be taking part in small sessions, something like a breakout rooms and one-to-one discussions. You'll be having option to explore the new ideas, the new prototypes of OutSystems, and you guys, like, you'll be getting rewarded for each and every research program session which you are attending. And this session will be in a webinar format. Microphones and camera are not enabled, but still, if you have any queries, please post it on chat. Then we have other volunteers and hosts joining us, so that they'll be asking me the questions. And if you want anything, you can just have a direct message drop to me. And this session will be recorded, and this session will be available in our YouTube channel, Chennai OutSystems User Group. And I thank our organizers Happy Mary and Krishnambal for organizing such a beautiful session. Okay, guys, just let's dive into the topic. Give me a sec.
Before starting Jerome, while sharing Jerome, I have to give him an intro. And Jerome Rajadurai, he is having a 5+ experience in overall software development and 3 years of experience in OutSystem. And he was a wonderful tutor in the outsystem background, and he have technical knowledge, and he is a tech lead in the Z company, and he already shared about the advanced REST API, and he did many REST API in his projects, and we welcome his thoughts about to in OutSystem user group. I'm very happy to welcome him to present his thoughts about REST API. And on behalf of you all, I'm welcoming Jerome Rajadurai to present his presentation to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sriyamani. I didn't expect this. Thank you. That's a very brief intro. Hi, guys, once again. So, thank you for joining. People who have joined now, thank you for joining. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So today, guys, we'll be having a bit of deep dive into the REST API integrations. So we all know like OutSystems as a high performance low code platform helps us in developing web apps like in traditional web, reactive, and also mobile apps. So likewise, REST API projects is also considered as a very crucial part of development. So like we cannot say we'll develop an application, we expose our entities. So at the end of the project, we'll just develop some REST APIs, give it to the customer or give it to the consumer. No, that's not the case. So REST API are it's a crucial point in developing. So today we'll just look into the a bit advanced concepts like callback actions and how to change the dynamic like a URL based URL of a request response, and what are all the basic customizations we can do, and what all the customization OutSystems allows us to do so. And then we'll be seeing about a very small working example of and what will be the case if the base URL is not stable. So this is my agenda, and I have my prompt here. So don't take me wrong if I'm just looking here and there. So just some prompts over here and there. So I hope, guys, my voice is audible. Just can someone just say whether my voice is audible and the screen is visible or not? Just a confirmation. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Okay, so speaking about REST APIs, right? So whenever we develop a REST API, so we call it as a resource. So let it be a web page, let it be a method, or let it be an action which is exposed. It is a resource in our environment. We are exposing our resource. So resource is something like it is something very pertaining, or we can say something very private to us, and we are exposing something to the public to use it. When I say public, other than the native owner of the module. So I am having a module in OutSystems, so I can just having exposed API in OutSystems, and I'm exposing my data, or I can say my logic to other consumers. Okay. So while exposing, there are some best practice and some items which has to be taken care of. So whenever we say REST APIs, right, the first thing should be the security aspect. So whenever I'm exposing data or a resource, I should make sure the resource is secured. So resource is secured in the sense we have to authenticate the person, and we have to authorize whether he has the permission to do so or not. So what if the authentication is successful but authorization fails, then which means he has access to everything and he can just barge into all the data. So we have to make sure authentication and authorization is being made in a very proper format. So before exposing our resource to the external consumer. When I say external consumer, I'm not mentioning about someone from like other system, or I can say other provider. I'm just saying within the modules. Let's say within the modules, some other module is trying to access our my API, the API which has been designed in this module. I need to make sure that the application and the authorization. So in the last session, we saw about the basic authentication. So coming to the like basic authentication, right? If you even if you have any of the API clients, right? I'll just say the like basic authentication. I'll give my username and password. And when you create a basic authentication in OutSystems, what OutSystem will do is OutSystem will automatically decode the base 64 format of the username and password. It sends as a username and password input, and it will check with the default user provider login which we have in our system. It will just say success or not. In case, so I'm using an external system. In case I'm just using a system which is not just relying on username and password, then I'll go for other authentication methods. So that's why if you like I have just created a API like version 0, and here I'm just saying that like what type of authentication I need to create. So I'm not giving going to be basic. I'm saying that I need a custom authentication. So in case of basic authentication, you can see the request and response, like sorry, the username and password coming as an input. I'll just say like a basic. You can see username and password as an input parameter. But when I just say that the authentication should be custom, I don't have any input. So how can I send, like how can I send data to authentication? How am I going to transfer data to this action, the on authentication? So before that, we need to understand something called as the callback action cycle in an API. So what is this callback action? This on authentication, on request you have guys have seen. These are all callback action. When I say back action, when you call a resource, this action or intent called to make sure the execution of the action is in a smooth way. So for example, I'm having a method called fetch server data. So when I say that I need to hit the resource fetch server data, whenever I'm calling fetch server data, there is a life cycle that has been followed. So I'll call fetch server data. So OutSystems will call the on authentication callback action. It will check for authentication. It will execute it. Then it will go for the on request. Okay, everything is fine. Then it will execute the fetch server data action, what has been written over there. So once everything is done, my server is going to send the response. Then the on response action is going to be called. Okay, this is how the flow goes. So when I say on authentication, there is no input has been sent as a part of advanced parameter, which means I have to extract the inputs. I have to extract the data. So how am I going to extract it and how am I going to send it? So here, like apart from the request body, right? This is I'm using Postman as my API client. You can use whichever you want it to be an OutSystem client or Nightingale or whatever it is. Okay, so I'm using Postman here. So here I'm having like apart from the body and the parameters, right? I'm having headers, and Postman gives me an option to send authorization separately. But even if I say authorization as basic or advanced or whatever it is in turn embed as a part of authorization header. So this is how it will be. So when I'm just saying that not I don't want a basic authentication, I want JSON Web Token authentication. It has to be an auth1 or auth2, whatever it is. It will be sending all the data in header. So as a basic authentication type, I'm going with authorization header. If it is not basic auth1 or auth2, the client ID, client secret will be sending in header or in the body based on the grant types. Okay, I have to extract the data. So how am I going to extract the data? So I need to take help from a module called HTTP request handler. So this HTTP request handler, right? So this serves as a very big mechanism tool to take or extract or set values in your HTTP request context. So I have took dependencies on some of the actions like get IP, get requested, a user agent, URL encode. I'm just using these actions to make sure that I'm extracting the correct data, I'm using the correct data. So I know that the authentication will be coming as a part of authorization header. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the get request header and I'm going to say that I want the authorization header out of it. So I have used it here as an example. This is how I have used it. I'm just using get authorization header and I'm going to say that okay, I need the header with the key authorization. So whatever comes next with the key authorization, like this server action will give me the value of it. So I can use the same action in non-authentication, I can use it. So for basic, it's fine. Even for when I say client ID, client secret type of OAuth credentials, I'm going to take it. So how can I customize it? So there is something called whitelisting. So so this is my customer or this is my end user. I know from this server they're going to call me. Other than that, any server in the world, I don't want to take requests from them. So I want to make sure, am I getting requests from the correct IP, the internet protocol? So what I'll do is I'll use the action called get IP to fetch the remote clients or the consumer or the end user's IP. I'll fetch the IP and I'll make sure that whether am I getting called from the correct IP? Is it someone whom I know or is it someone who I don't know? So we can set this IP as a form of site property or as an entity in your data, like or data in your entity, whatever it is. But you have to make sure that am I getting called from the correct IP. So I'll use this get IP action to fetch the IP of the remote client. So now I got the IP. Now I got the authorization. Can I do some other customization? Yes, we can check on the user agent. So user agent is something like, and what is the agent or what is the tool they are using to consume your a resource, or I can say the API. So here I'm using Postman. So here if you see I'm using a Postman client. Are they using it from Postman? Are they using it from OutSystem client? Are they using it from a local host server? So why does that matter? So now we have a question, why does that matter? Let them call from anywhere, like let them call from Postman, let them call from any like a system, local host, or whatever it is. If you see some of the APIs, we don't want to expose as a standalone API. I want the request to be taking data from any other API. So I'll make sure that it is not getting a direct hit from any of the client user agent, something like a Postman or any tools. I want to make sure only if it is running from this .NET user agent, I want to run it. Only if it is running from this JavaScript user agent or a browser user agent, I have to execute it. So in those cases, I can use the user agent. Before that, I have to extract the user agent. HTTP request handler gives us the feasibility of get user agent action to get the user agent of the remote client, or how the tool is being built, like what tool they have the exact communication is from. So apart from this action, there is also a way to get user agent. You can just use the get request header, and you instead of authorization, I can just say user hyphen agent. That will give me the user agent of the user agent of the particular request. So it's not that all the requests is being made from the same user agent. For this particular request, what all the data is being passed as a part of header, you can take it from get request header and IP and as a user agent. So now I have all these things. What does a successful authentication means? So that will be the next question. So I'm saying that okay, I can use everything. I can check IP. I can check the user agent. I can check the IP is whitelisted or not. Okay. How am I going to say that this authentication is a success or a failure? So whenever we have the primary line reaches the end node, it means a success authentication. So do we have any other end node? Yes, of course. If there is something wrong, I can have if condition. I can have my logic over here, check something, and if it is true, I'm just running over here. If it is false, I can raise an exception. I can raise an exception. I can handle, I'm just saying invalid login exception. I can handle my exception and stating that invalid login. Okay, I'm just handling invalid login. I'm going to state that, okay, this is not a proper authentication. I'm raising an exception and I'm stating that it's a not valid login. Is everything completed? No. So whenever you say that authentication is not successful, we have to say our client that this authentication is not valid. So that we use something called as the status codes. So maintaining proper status codes for each and every API transaction is a best practice, and it's a must to do so. So for example, you have came across a different status code. When you say 404, it means that it's not page not found, it's a resource not found. Even for API, I'll be getting 404, which means this resource has not been found under the URL you have given or under the server which you have mentioned. This resource is not reachable. And you have different status code. When you say 500, it means that, okay, there is something wrong. Something has happened inside. We'll just say that it's an internal server error. You just contact your administrator or whomever it is. And if it is success, I'll be sending somewhere around like a 200 based status code. Okay, this is success, or this is partial success. Oh, okay, this is success with this condition. I'll be sending 200. So maintaining this data is so important. If you see, I'm having this API method. I'm just calling it. I have to make sure am I getting the proper status code or not. So this status code, there are some status code like with built-in status code has been handling by default, like 404. And for example, if I'm having get, I'm just saying like I don't want get, I just send it through put. So it says that 405 this method is not allowed, which means this HTTP verb is not supported by this resource. Okay, put is not allowed. Okay, I'll go with get and I'm going to fetch the data. 405 says this method is not allowed. Okay, so this type of custom authentication OutSystem leverages us to do so. This is just a very basic like what I can say with some a bit of advanced concepts. I can say like using a whitelisting, using user agent. There are some more advanced, like you can use ED directory based check, you can use LDAP check, you can use not only auth2, we have other like you have an encryption token, just encrypt it, like it will be AES or say whatever it is, then check something. These items can be made in on authentication custom. So in basic, I'm just getting the username and password. I'm going to do so. Apart from that, I want to take something. I'll be going with the on authentication custom, where I'll be building my own authentication. So I'm just for you guys, I'm just having a API which takes the IP of my remote client, and which then the action which takes my user agent, and which an action which takes the request header with the key authorization. So I'm just trying to execute it. So when I execute it, you can see that okay, this is the remote client I'm calling from, this is my user agent, and this is what I got as a part of authorization key based header. So if it is not basic, I can have a BRL token, this is what the token is, and execute it. I'm just going to guess this is what I do to fetch my data. So now you have the IP. You can check if like is it authorized person. You have the user agent. This is how you want to call your method, and this is the basic authorization header. Not only authorization, whatever header data you need, just give me the key. You'll be getting the value. And more importantly, guys, this is a server call made on my API resource. And if you have internal server action calls, unless or until it is a single transaction server action, you can use this get request header wherever you want, and you can fetch the API because it's on a single transactional session. It's not only on the API on authentication or on request I need it. I can use it anywhere in my request if it is a consecutive server call, server action calls. If it is going to be a service action, then the scenario is totally different. So guys, I'm just making a simple pass over here. Are we clear what we guys seen till now? Is everything okay, or do you guys have any questions over here? So I can just get a yes, no, is it okay or not? You guys want me to continue, or you guys saying the no, stop it? So no questions, only from one person I'm getting. It's good so far, fine. So far no questions. Okay, thank you. So when I create an API, right? So under REST, I'm going to create an API. I have to make sure that am I using the proper security transactional protocol. So here it says SSL or TLS, the transport layer security. I'm using the proper security layer. I'm using the proper authentication mechanism. And the next part, there is something called internal access only. So what is this internal access only? What does this means? So it is something like you are giving public yes or no. So when I say internal access as yes, so here by default it's no. I'm going to change it as yes, which means this API is exposed to the network which I'm residing in. So I'm just saying this is an internal API. I just want my other modules and application is going to use it, or other application from the same premises server or other application within the same LAN network is going to use it. Then I'll say that internal access only as yes. So this will give you a customization, making sure that your API is exposed on the web inside your prescribed LAN area. So anywhere from the world, you can't able to access this API because it has been just prescribed only inside your local area network. Okay. So all the systems sharing the same LAN, like systems in the sense your servers where your application is running, sharing the same LAN, can access this API. So this gives you one security. So whenever we create an API, make sure that you're having a proper security mechanism, proper authentication mechanism to authenticate and authorize the person who are going to use this API. Then am I exposing it in the correct layer, or am I exposing it in the correct radius? So making sure the radius will help us how the API is exposed to the clients, and how what are the say data security concern, or what are the data security assurance that I'm going to give to my customer. See, this is just an internal API, you can use it. Apart from our network, no one can take it. This is how the assurance I can give. So this is why we use internal access only option. So now I have my API, and I have my functions like my server methods were returned. So whenever I have a server method returned, let's just make sure that the output parameter is having a default value. Why to do so? If something has gone wrong, or if some you have not set the status code, you have not set the error message, you have not set any mandatory parameter which has been used by the next API, it will make sure that at least the default value is being sent out as an output, and it is logged somewhere. If it's an exception, it will just log it, or you are sending a value. So, and if you don't want to send any value, I just want an API which should always return true, or which should always return some static data. You don't do anything like just assign or something. Just create a output parameter and give a default value. Okay. So now I have an API ready. I have like an output ready, and I have my logic ready. So why this on request and on response is being used? So when I get a request, or when I'm going to call this API, so what I'll do is, so this is my API. I'm exposing it. I have my own logic over here. I'm going to expose this API. I'll say that if something has been there's a change in the request, I'll do so. What can be the change? So for example, I'm getting the request text and request binary as an input. So what's the difference? All the like the text, if it is a JSON text, it's a raw text or plain text, you'll be getting it as a part of text. If it is a multi-part form, or the input is binary, you'll be getting in the part of a request binary. The content will be transferred through the request binary. So now I have the request, so I have my request text, and I can say that, so you whenever my I can say to my end user, so you just send the request text in an encrypted form, so that no one is cracking the code, or no one is breaking the request and response parameter. So it's not only the code which you have written to be secure, it is also the input and output parameters. The parameters, we need to secure the parameters. Even through a web page, we are securing it through some of the basic algorithms such as base64 AES. Same we can use over here. So I have a request text. I can encrypt my request text. So here in the case, I have said my customer or my end user. I am the customer in the sense the consumer of my resource. I'm saying that you just encrypt using this key on the RSA padding mechanism. I'll decrypt it. So before I'm going to use this request, what I can do is I can decrypt the data, and I can assign it to the request text. So this case of scenario you can utilize on request, and same for on response. So this callback action we can use in a similar way. I'm going to encrypt it, I'm going to decrypt it, or I'm going to set some values in the header which is being used by the consecutive API methods. Then you can obviously do so. So this for this purpose and method, we are going to use on request and on response callback actions. So now I have all my API exposed. This is the API I'm going to call. Okay. Then I'm going to consume the API. So when I consume an API, right? So I'll need the endpoint, and I need the base URL. I need the headers, and while consuming through the OutSystem platform as an user agent, OutSystem helps us to give authentication mechanism. So my authentic, like for example, my API is having no authentication, then fine. My API is having a basic authentication. You can consume it like you can have the basic authentication defined, and I'll say this is the username and password for which I have to use it while executing the API, or I can say auth 2.0 of type of grant type client credentials. So apart from client credentials, there are different grant types. So OutSystem as a platform user agent, it supports us to consume APIs with OAuth 2.0 client credentials. So I can just give my client credential, client secret, and what are the necessary details over there, and then click on finish. So whenever you execute the API, this authentication mechanism is executed. Then it adds the header when it is a auth2 credential. it adds the authorization header, it receives the token from the auth to URL, and it adds the bearer header, then it calls the API. Okay, these are the methods added very recently to make sure we have a very good developer experience. Okay, now I have a URL, I have everything set up, so I'll click on finish. Now my API is being consumed. So I'm not going into the very base part of consuming an API because it has already been discussed in the previous session. So now I have everything ready. So in this case, I am having a method, I'm having a URL, I'm going to consume it. So what if I'm going to encrypt something? So then I use a callback action called on before request or on before response. So likewise, we saw an exposed other one, right? So you have the on before request callback actions. We have something called as on before request and on before request advance for the callback actions to be called on request, and we have on before on after response and on after response advanced as a callback action options on response side. Okay, so now I'm just saying on before request, which means when I'm going to consume this API, when I call this method, this API I have consumed it from some other server. This is I have the URL. Now I'm going to send some data and I'm going to receive some data. Okay, this is just so API means the program like application programming interface. I'm going to send some data, I'm going to receive some data. Okay, let the logics and everything be apart. Okay, so now I have a request and I know that I'm going to get some response. Okay, I said that apart from request, we have something called as headers. So we can send the header, like apart from the request text, we can send the header data, and if it's a get method, you'll be sending the query parameters. Everything can be customized over here in on before request. So on before request, I can do operations. I can say that okay, this is the request header. Oh, I want to change this request header to this. Okay, this is the request text. Okay, I want to encrypt and I have to send it. Okay, these kind of activities can be done as a part of on before request. Okay, so for example, in this OSUG cloud, I'm having only single method. What if I'm having multiple method and I want to send this header I don't want to send every time. If this is a method under this REST API or a consumption parent, I want to send header to everyone, then the OutSystem as a platform gives you an option. You can click on the parent node of our REST API and you can give the header, the key and header value. It will attach it with all the methods we have below it. If you like having a get fetch server data, get employee, create employee, if you have 5 to 10 methods, whenever you call this method, the header request and the value, the key value pair is associated with it automatically. Okay, now I have all my uh, headers ready, I have my request ready, I have my response ready. This request I know that like it can be encrypted, then I have to do some authentication. It's over, like let us say on auth 2, like as platform supported, I have my client credentials, I'm going to use it. Okay, let's say, so there is a scenario I'm having that like this I'm going to send a URL as a part of request which contains special characters, or let's say an exposed method. In this exposed API, I'm going to send a URL which is having some special characters. So many people would have came across this scenario which will break something. So for example, I'm just showing one of the log which we have came across. I'm trying to use the Google Analytics API, which states that like this URL is not valid because here it is actually a colon which is being replaced by %3 as a new part of UTF-8 encoding. Okay, so for these kind of transactions, let it be a colon or let it be a percentage, whatever symbol it is, I have to send it, I have to encode or decode. The same HTTP request handler is having an URL encode option, which will like converts the string to the UTF-8 8 protocol, making sure that this encoding is being done on a very secure transmission, a reliable transmission method. Okay, I encode the URL, then I send it, then I use it. So I have successfully created an API. This API is going to send some data, and this API is going to decrypt the data which I'm going to receive, and the response is encrypted. On the other hand, I have successfully consumed API. This API is having an authentication mechanism, and this authentication mechanism, I'm going to say that it's going to send the encrypted data, receive the response, and check the status code, and it's going to make some like a logical transactions. Okay, so here, apart from this on before request, I can have on before response. In on after response, I'll be receiving something called a status code. Okay, this is the reason I said whenever we expose an API, make sure that we are going to send a proper status code so the consumer is not affected by our transaction. Okay, so my transaction is a failure, so the consumer can say that, okay, if this is this status code, I can ignore this exception, or if this is this status code, I can make the, okay, this is a success with some partial actions. So make sure it's a best practice to send status code in a very proper manner. Okay, like not like I can use any number, so I can just use 1 2 3 4 5 6. No, there are status code which has been predefined. We have, you can just Google it and you can say what are all the range of status code for success, what are all the range of status code for unavailability. You can just Google it and you'll be getting some data. Okay. So now I have this much of API exposed and consumed. Okay, and while expose and consume, right, we just saw some of the options, like um, what is the security protocol which has to be followed, and what is the target radius of this API. And with the same wise, while consuming an API, right, I'll be having that what type of authentication unit. This is being accepted as a part of OutSystem platform conception. Then there is something called date format. Okay, what does this date format means? Okay, if you click on this option, you can see like you want to send it in ISO date format, or you want to send it as a Unix timestamp. So these three options OutSystem gives by default. And to surprise that, like this date format, right, I'm going to say that I'm going to use the standard format. I'll you go with ISO, while consumption or receiving this date format is having a time zone. What happens, it actually like it automatically converts to the local server timestamp, and if there is a daylight saving, it adjusts it. So this is the level of advancement which we have as a platform in OutSystems. Okay, so these are all the customizations I can make. So we saw, okay, on authentication we have basic and custom. Likewise, we have something called as on before request advanced and on after response advanced. Okay, when we say on before request advanced, likewise on authentication basic, I'm not getting any input parameter, and the same method we have to extract the parameter or we have to push the parameter. So I'm saying that this request is coming as an input for on before request. I'll make some changes. I'll send out the customized request. That's not the option over here in advance. So why have they have given this? What is the need for it? So guys, you need to understand that apart from this area, so we have the HTTP method, headers, request part, and base URL, endpoint, the request text. There are things which is important in a HTTP transaction. For example, the TLS version. So I'm saying that, and I'm exposing an API with some security, HTTP security. So what if it is a legacy API? So we are using TLS 1.3. It is not TLS 1.3. I want something downgraded. How am I going to set it? Or else I can say that this is the base URL I want. This is how my SSL certificate has to be attached. Those things can be taken care in on before request advanced. So you can write a .NET code snippet, say that this is the certificate I want to attach, or this is the TLS version I want to implement. You can write an extension and you can call it. If you like you say that I don't know how to write an extension, then you can use the forge component HTTPS consumer. So you have clicked something, so which will add a client certificate which will help you in setting the TLS, or the transport layer security version. Okay, so these parts can be done in on before request advance. So this on before request advance executes codes which is not only just changing request types and headers, something more advanced than that. Okay, so now we have seen, okay, I have an on before request done, I have on before request advance, I don't have an option to request response. We know how to extract it. Even if you want to change something in request, see, not only with the like SSL certificates or the TLS version, you can also change, or you can also encrypt something in request header or request parameter or the request body. So you can use either one, only on before request or on before request advanced. So there you can use a component called advanced REST, which gives you a lot and lot of option to set the HTTP verb. If you want it to be get post in runtime, you can get it and you can set it. And if you want to change the whole multi-part concept, you can just change it. And you want to set some accept headers, you can do it. And you want to set some custom headers, which is not it is not a direct method, or you get it as a dynamic way, you can always use it. You can use this component to do so. This in turn executes a .NET C# code, which will do actions directly on the proxy or the current HTTP context. Okay, this is how we use on before request and on before request advanced. So now we have came to a point that I have my API consumed. This is all my callback action. This is why the advanced callback action is being used for. Okay. So now I'm moving my application to a different environment. Let me say that I'm having this is a dev and I have consumed some internal APIs and I'm going to move it to the next environment. So obviously the DNS or the base URL, the domain changes. So what you can do is I can just directly go to Service Center. I'm opening Service Center of this module. Okay, under integrations, okay, I have this URL consume. I can click on it, and in all the environment, I can change the logging level, base URL. If you have authentication type, like if you have basic or custom, you will be having options to change that too. So now I have an option to change my base URL or the authentication method, like authentication username and password in different environments. I don't need for me to open the code, change it and publish it. You can just, this is being considered as kind of a site property. You can just change it and this will be executed on the next immediate call of that action. You don't need to publish something. Just make the changes, click on apply on the next environment. What is the new URL, what is the new username and password, our system will take care of it. Okay. Now, let's have a scenario. I am going to consume an API. This API, like I'm having a URL, base URL, and this base URL is a cloud-based URL, or I can say this parameter, I like, or this endpoint is a cloud-based endpoint. It refreshes for each and every 5 minutes, or it refreshes for each and every 10 minutes. There are cases like that. Very, very rare scenario cases. So here, while developing the code, I know that okay, on before request or on before request advanced, I can implement a .NET code or I can implement an action to change it. So how can I do it to using just on before request alone? Okay. So what we have done is we have just leveraged a common method to make sure this on before request or the action is not breaking. So what I'm going to do is I have this method get fetch data from server. To this method, I'm going to add a input parameter, or I can just going to add a header parameter. So I'll say that this is the header parameter. I just added by right click add input parameter. I'm going to say that this header parameter, I want to utilize it while using this action. Okay, I have created a header parameter, and this whenever I'm going to call this API, I have an option to send data to the header parameter. Okay, so now you have option to send the parameter to this server, to this API resource consumption method. How am I going to use it, or how am I going to use it to change the base URL? So my scenario is base URL is dynamic, or I'll be saying that my scenario is I have a requirement where my client says the base URL is so dynamic that for each and every action or for each and every API transaction, the base URL changes, but not the endpoint or not the request response structure or everything. Less the base URL. Okay, here I'm just giving an example of base URL. You can take off any example like dynamic endpoint, or you can say dynamic request parameter, or I can say dynamic request body. Anything is fine. So here, for just for explaining purpose, I just created a base URL with like I have used base URL concept. I have created a parameter called dyna base URL. DYNA just refers to dynamic API base URL. Then I'm going to use it. So what I'll do is in on before request, I know this URL will be passed for sure as a part of header parameter. I'll filter that header parameter. I'll assign the value of the header parameter to the request or to the request.base URL. So I'm having the list. From the list current value, I'll be getting the value. Now this value, I'm using it to the request.base URL. So now I have the base URL been changed or transformed to the new value, which is being sent here in the dyna base URL parameter. This is just, as I said, this is an example of base URL. You can change endpoints. You can change even the HTTP. For example, you don't want this. I have consumed it as a get method. Later, it has been post or put or whatever it is. If you have the proper handling mechanism, you can change the what to say. You can change the HTTP request verbs also. Okay. So now I have an option to change everything, but I don't want this header to make a hit on the consumed resource, because I'm going to send this as a header. Okay, the consumed the API which I have consumed, they know that okay, I have used this header. So I'll just filter out all the headers out like outside this key. Then I'm going to assign it to the headers. Okay, so now what happened? I have this base URL. I'm getting it from a server action. On before request, I have this base URL. I have assigned it to the headers dot the request dot base URL. Now I have removed that header from the request dot header. So the output will be this request.base URL will be having the new URL which you have dynamically sent, and this header is not been passed to the consumed resource. Okay, let me show an example. So I have this get fetch data server. I can just test it. So this is the response which is from my environment, and I have created a base URL as a dynamic input. I have used it in the action, and I have used this action as part of a screen. Okay, so this is the screen I have used. Okay, so now what I'll do is, so this is the URL by default. I'm just cut copy paste the URL. This is the URL. From this URL, I'm getting a message, you have reached Marvel server. So now I want to change the base URL. So this is the URL which I want to use. This is the different DNS or the different base URL, which means a different server. I'm going to accept, I'm going to fetch a resource. I'm going to reach a resource from a different server with the same endpoint and request and response in my scenario. Okay, I'm just going to click on fetch. So this takes data from the different server, which is not my basic server or the server which I have consumed as while I'm creating my application. Okay, so this is how we dynamically imbibe the base URL. This is how we dynamically make sure the endpoint, even if the endpoint has been changed in runtime, we can use this method to dynamically change the endpoints. Okay, so today we have seen like how the callback action has been used, like what all the callback action life cycle, and how this callback action can be extended as an advanced version, and what all the actions can be used. So and what are all the items that can be managed to be a dynamic way, and how are we going to utilize the platform accepted API consumption method. Okay, so I'm closing my note over here. Guys, you have any questions? So Shriyami, do we have any questions? Okay, we have got some questions. Just check. Okay, is the internal access IP determined by what setup in service center on each environment? Okay, so this internal access IP is determined by the network which you are in. So for example, I'm an on-prem server, and this on-prem server has been in a network. It's not just something which is being set up in service center. So internal to this LAN, right, I have different environments, or else I can say different partners are using this using this environment. If I have a security protocol to be the vice versa on end to end, then I can use it. Okay, that is how the internal access only IP is being determined. So let me just know if this answers your question, or you can just see. Okay. Let's say I have an API to consume and it return JSON like file name, file and file name. How will I download the file? And it is giving JSON text. I quickly don't understand. Okay, you have a JSON, you have a API which returns JSON like this, the file and the file name. How will I need to download it? Okay, so you have to understand in what format the file is being written. So I understand you have a JSON which returns file name and file. What format? Are they sending it as binary? Are they sending it as base 64? So you have to make sure a conversion mechanism is being handled. If it is a binary, like you can have this text, you can convert it into binary, you'll be getting the binary bytes. Or if it is a base 64, you have to convert it into binary to get the binary data for that file. We have to make sure you're using a conversion mechanism. There are components, or there are modules, OutSystem default modules, such as I think it's called binary utilities, where you can just use the action to make sure the conversions has been made. Okay. So Mani and okay, Mani and Samsung answered the question. Thank you, Mani. And Ignatius, we can also get a header value with same header name of API output parameter and get value from header instead of using HTTP request handler. Let me just read again. We can also get a header value with same header name of API output parameter. Okay, so the naming scenario, right? So there are two things: the name which is being used by the OutSystems platform, like the input, like a parameter name, and the name which you are going to send in JSON. And in this case, as header, right? So I prefer like keep distinct names. So keep distinct names. If it, because at the back set, right, it is using a data dictionary which accepts accepts only unique keys. So if you're going to have the same parameter name, what is latest is going to take that. It is not going to take the first iteration. In this case, which base URL will get logged in integration logs, the original one or the modified one? Okay, this is a nice question. So here, in this case, this integration logs, right, it will just log the one which actual call is made from your server to the other agent. Okay, so here my request has been modified before calling the consumed API. Then I'm sending the request outside my server. Okay, which means the URL which has been dynamically paged will be logged in, because that is something which has been transferred to the C# port to be getting it logged. Okay, can you explain callback actions advanced mode? I hope I have explained the callback actions advanced. So this callback action advanced, right? So these advanced, like as I said, not only the request headers parameters. Apart from that, you have some many important items, such as the security. What's the security layer you're going to use it? What is the security certificate you're going to attach it? And what is the proxy? For example, in some cases, right, we'll be having a VPN or a proxy. What is the proxy's IP you want to use it? So these items can be done using the advanced mode. So either you can use the advanced REST component or HTTP consumer component, or if you have an option, like if you want to write your own code, if you want to write codes to attach your X9.net certificate, then you are always welcome to do so. So I hope I answered all the questions in chat. So guys, do you have any questions, or you want to reiterate something? Okay. I hope there are no questions. See, even if you have questions while practicing, right? So after the session is done, if you're going to practice something and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach me through LinkedIn or my email. I'll make sure that I'll reply for all the emails and all the messages. You can connect with me through LinkedIn. And if you have any suggestions to improve it, or if you have any suggestions, this is something which you have explained, feel free to do so. I'll not get offended at any cost, so please feel free to do so. And thank you so much for joining the session. Over to you, Shriyamani. Thank you. Thank you, Mani. Shriyamani, I think you were speaking on mute.
Yes, Jerome. That was a wonderful, great session about advanced REST API, and I think many of them had a great session from Jerome. And one more thing, here we have three or four questions. You like to answer for this question, Jerome?
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah. First question is Saiful Asim Abdul Kader actually asked, is the internal access IP determined by what certain service center in each environment?
Yeah. So, Yami, those questions I had just answered now. I
Okay,
have read the questions and I have answered it.
okay, you
I have not mentioned the questions, but I have answered all the questions, the internal access
okay,
API and the
yeah,
JSON file and everything.
fine, fine. The callback actions also you
I
explained,
have
right?
explained it again. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jerome. I thought I missed out any questions, so only I asked
Mm.
questions.
No issues.
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful session, Jerome. And I understand that you all guys had a great informative session about what Jerome said about REST API, advanced REST API. So here we have some other quiz on that. Are you guys ready for the quiz? Any yes for me? Any yes? You guys are there? Yes, yes. Okay. Many yeses are coming. That actually very happy that I'm getting many yeses. So here we have quiz for you. And how many you guys gonna join to our quiz? Any yeses for me? Okay. Yes, I got a great yeses. So no further delay. I'll go for the quiz thing. So I will share my screen and please download that quiz care out and I will give the name of that. Ready to join? I will share all those things. So you can, if you are biased new to here, I will do that one.
Shiyami, I think your screen is not shared.
Yeah, 1 second. The screen is visible. The screen is visible now. Okay, you guys, you guys able to see my screen, right? The game pin, you can able to see anything. Okay, so here the pin is, so you guys can come and join to the quiz game. So waiting for our players. First player is MK and second is Vinod, and much more is coming on the way.
Shiyami, I think the Kahoot screen is not visible. Yes, we are seeing the
It's not visible.
yeah, yeah, we are seeing
Okay,
the OutSystems screen, the
sorry.
biggest.
Wait a minute. Uh, Is this visible now?
Yes, now it's visible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So we have 17 members to join the quiz. We can wait for another 2 minutes. Wait for the players, and then we can start the quiz. It's 20. Shall we have another question? Anyone want to join? Shall I wait for another 2 minutes or shall I start? Now it's 21. Shall I start or shall I wait? Because many other. Okay, Derek, Sandeep are coming. 24th name. Okay. I will wait for another 1 minute and I will start the quiz. So how much you guys are excited about the quiz to win? You will be the first 3 places. And yes, you guys are so excited about the quiz. Okay, I'll take this silence as a yes. And okay, we will start the quiz right now. And ready with your mobile phones or laptops, anything. And start the quiz. Yes. First question. The 3 and 2 and 1. The quizzes. The question: what will be the status code if the REST API method is not allowed to be used with the specified HTTP method? The options are do not be, do not go, do not type. The answers are coming so fastly. That's great. So the session is very informative and very interesting. So all the people have the questions answers on their hands. That's nice. The 405 is the correct answer. 3 people answered very correctly. So we will see the scoreboard now. Yes, Devendra is 783 and Anjali is 715 and Mahesh is 568. So we will go for others second round. Don't worry, others will have the chance to. So second question is: get IP action is used to get the IP host address of the remote client or backend server or HTTP channel or backend server. The answers are coming up. Yes, yeah. 3, 2, 1. Here the answer is yes. 9 members are told the answer is right. That answer is remote client. So we will see the scoreboard now. Yes, again, no, the Vinod had a great answer right now, and 938 is a good score. And we have another Rizwan and Zeben Joy, and we have Nusha and Mayur also have a good score. We will go for the next question. Third question is: get user agent action is the only way to acquire user agent of the current HTTP request. Answer true or false? The answer is coming so fast. That's nice. That's great. The answer 9, 8, 7, 6, 3, 2, 1. The answer is yes. The answer is false, but many told us true. But the answer is false. We will see the scoreboard now. Any changes in the scoreboard? No, always Vinod is having the first place. 1892 and Sebin Joy and Anand is coming as a third place. Congratulations, Anand. And we will go for the fourth question. The action that is used to encode a URL string for reliable HTTP transmission from the web server to a client. The answer is the options are HTTP URL encode, and encode URL. Timing is going on. Please answer as quick as you can. The answer is yes. URL encode is the correct answer. 5 members answered very correctly. So can we go for the scoreboard? Yes. Again, Vinod is the first place, Shibin is second place, and Sai is third place. And Eric is the highest climber. Congratulations, Eric. And we will go for the first question, true or false question. Common headers to be sent in all REST API methods can be initialized within OutSystems. True or false? I think the question is very easy, so you are answering so quickly, that's great. Yeah, here we gonna have the answer in 3, 2, 1. The answer is yes, the answer is true. 17 members told very correct answer, so we'll go for the scoreboard here. So Vinod won't give us the first place to anyone, I think so. So Vinod is the first place, Shibin Joy is second place, and Eric is third place. And Mayur is highest climber. Congratulations, Mayur, again. And we will have the sixth question, which is a below authentication method is not supported directly in OutSystems while consuming in REST API. The options are basic, auth2, LDAP, and no authentication. I think the question is pretty easy, so many answering so quickly, that's great. 3, 2, 1, the answers. Yes, LDEAP is a correct answer. 15 members said very correctly, so we'll go for a scoreboard. Yes, again the Vinod is first place, Shibin second, and third is Eric. No difference in scoreboard. And Pooja is the highest claimant. Congratulations, Pooja. And the seventh question is the best URL of the consumed API request can be changed dynamically only in Service Center. The options are true or false. Yeah, many are trying to answer. The answer is 3, 2, 1. The answer is yes, the answer is false, and 16 members state very correctly, so we'll go for the scoreboard. Yes, now Vinod go for fourth place, and first place is Devendra, and second is Anand. Congratulations, Anand, you came second. And Devendra Shekia, and congratulations for you too. And Devendra, congratulations. And we have 5 players hit an answer strike. 3 questions are straight, answer straight. That's great news. Congratulations for the 5 players. And we'll go for the 8th question. The TLS version can be set using which callback action? Answer the options are not request, not before request, not before request advanced, or not request. The answers are coming so fastly, that's great. The answer is yes, on before request advanced. 10 members answered very correct. So that's great. We'll go for the scoreboard. Congratulations, Anand. You are the first now, and Shibin Joy is second, and Vinod is third. He's started climbing fast. That's great, Vinod. I personally congratulate you, and Nisha is highest climber. Congratulations, Nisha. And we have a true or false question. In case of exceptional best practice of set appropriate steps, the answer is true or false. So we have the answer in 3, 2, 1. The answer is true is the correct answer. Many answer correctly, so great. We'll go for the scoreboard. Shevenjo is first. That's great. And Anand is second, and Vinod is third, and Rizwan is fourth. And we'll have other final question for the quiz of the day. We will go for the 10th question. Last question. If ISO date contains information about time zone, it is not converted to server time with daylight saving update. True or false? I think this is a very easy question. The answer is coming so quick. So still we have time, and anybody want to answer, they can answer. Yes, the answer is 3, 2, 1. The answer is yes. The answer is false. 9 members said correctly. So we go for the scoreboard. The final answer is Anand, congratulations, you win the third place. And second place is Vinod. And first place, any guesses you guys having? So we will have Shivan Joy. Congratulations, Shivan Joy. I'm happy that you and Rizwan and Nisha is fourth and fifth place runners. And congratulations for them also. So I'm happy that you guys win this event. And that's great. Okay, that's nice. So, I personally thank each and every member to participate in the quiz, and I happily, I'm happily had a great session with Jerome, and that was a great session, Jerome. Thank you for joining us for the wonderful Saturday evening. That's great. Thank you so much for your uh, wonderful session, insightful session for us. And who all win the quiz, please give your name, address, and t-shirt size number to the LinkedIn to me or Krishnambal or Hathy Mary or Jerome and Kirtana, and they can also have. They are the volunteers for this. And thank you so much for joining to the wonderful session. We will meet for other session, to interesting session in this Chennai user group. And thank you all for the come and grace the occasion so nicely. Thank you so much. Jerome, you have to say something. Anything? Have to share.
Mm, thank you, Shriyamni, and thank you guys for joining amidst of Saturday afternoon. I can see, and I can see people joining from different time zones. Thank you so much for joining in midst of the time difference, and I hope the session was useful. So let get if it is a positive feedback or negative feedback, whatever it is, just share it feedback to us. We'll be receiving emails for feedback. Else, if you want to share it to me, do connect with me in LinkedIn and just drop a message. I'll be so happy to get messages from you. And thank you so much, Riyamni, for the quiz. I hope the quiz was easy. Okay, the questions and answers, I hope it was easy. And thank you and congratulations, winners. So just as Riyamni said, give your details like your address, your full name, and your shirt size, and most importantly, we need a KYC detail to the one like of the organizer or the volunteers. And once again, I thank you all for joining. And we have upcoming sessions planned in OutSystems Chennai user group. So make sure you join us. And for the past session videos, you can reach us our YouTube channel, Chennai OutSystems user group. Just click on the bell icon and subscribe so that you are getting updates. And thank you guys. And this is Jerome Rajadurai signing off with a very happy note. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all to joining. Here we gonna wind up sign off from Chennai user group. Thank you.